the habits you have in coaching, and it's kind of a calling. And when you walk away, it's difficult to just let it go. So I enjoy it.
Well, let's go back and talk about that '08 team. And you can cast your vote today, by the way. You can go to our text line, 970-242-1340, our Facebook page, or our Twitter feed to vote for the 97 Central Warriors or the '08 Glenwood Springs Demons. And you go back to that team, Rocky, that you had. And a lot of the talk, obviously, if you go back to that team, is Dakota Stonehouse and what he did at quarterback. One of the more dynamic quarterbacks we've seen on this side of the hill. And you were lucky enough to have a young man like that to run your offense. Yeah,
it all started with him. I mean, he was just a tremendous, tremendous player. And, he had speed. He could throw the ball. He was smart. He was a great leader. He could just do about anything. I think he threw for thousands and ran at the same time. Just a great competitor. Would always rise to the occasion, take things and make things happen that you wouldn't expect. You just could. It was very difficult for a defense to deal with him, and he would just make things happen at an instant, and ended up being a great collegiate player, taking his college team to a national championship at Carrollton College in Montana.
Rocky Whitworth joining us today, the former head coach of the state champion Glenwood Springs Demons. Took the title in 2008, beat Fort Morgan at Cherokee Trail High School 23-14 to win the 3A title. Went 14-0 that season. I want you to go back to Dakota for a moment, though. When did you know you had something special with him? Obviously, the undefeated season, winning a state title, you knew what you had going into that with Dakota. But when did you get a sense that Dakota Stonehouse could be the kind of quarterback that could take you all the way to a title game?
We kept our freshman program separate. They worked on their own, but he was always coming by the office, and he was just draining me of everything that I knew about being a quarterback and what he could do to help himself become a better athlete. He was just hungry to be the best he could be. So he would just do everything, that he could to improve himself, going to camps and training in the weight room, and he did other sports. So he just, I knew something was special with him, and then surrounding him was just a lot of other kids that were on that same page.
Of course, in the title game, Stonehouse threw for 2 touchdowns. He ran for another. But one of those guys that you're talking about was a great complimentary player, Michael Hudson. Michael Hudson at the running back spot, 117 yards in the state title game. And Michael Hudson was a very productive player for you in your ground game.
Oh, Mikey, yeah, he was something. He was so quick and dynamic as a running back. And he was just kind of a speed guy. But he had a great toughness too, because he had to step up and protect in that spread offense, so that we could move that ball all around. We had those 4 great receivers too, and 3 of them ended up being college athletes. 2 played football, another one was a guard, a guard for the basketball team at Mesa, and those 5 kids, whoever had the ball was going to make something happen.
And you mentioned your receivers. Kevin Screen, one of those guys, got a touchdown pass in the state title game. He was a really good player, productive player at the wideout spot for you.
Yeah, Kevin was the point. It was a guard at Mesa, but he was very quick, and we would throw those little quick screens out there, and he would make people miss and jump up the field and just really do everything he could to get in the end zone. And then we had Bennett Nicola, and he ended up another tall receiver. Gosh, I can't remember the other receiver's name. Isn't that something?
It catches up with all of us, Rocky. We start to forget some names after a while.
I've coached a few kids in 40 years. So.
Yes, you have.
But we had a 10-year reunion just last summer in Glenwood at the golf course where I live, and a lot of those kids, well, I say they're young men now, all showed up, and we just had a great time.
Rocky Whitworth, the coach of the 2008 Glenwood Springs Demons 3A state championship football team, with us today on the Jim Davis Show on the team. And, of course, any team, if they're going to be productive offensively, they have to have a really good group of guys up front. Take us back to that offensive line a little bit, because that was a really good unit. You had those skill players led by Dakota Stonehouse, but those guys up front played a key role.
Oh yeah, Moses Galvin at left tackle, and our right tackle was both big guys, and we would pull our tackles all the time. They could run, and for 3A football, these tackles were, they were 250 pounds, so they were big guys, and we had quick guards, and just an outstanding offensive line. And they, but the best thing about the whole crew, all of them, was they just played with a sense of urgency all the time, and they just got this dependency to the point where they didn't want to do anything wrong to let down their teammates. They just busted their butt on every play, because they didn't want to let their teammates down.
Let's flip over to the defensive side. Outside of, the one game, actually was the one of the quarterfinal game against Berthoud. Your defense gave up 39 points to Berthoud in that game, but you guys put 50 on the scoreboard to move on to the semifinals. For the most part, your defense was a really good unit that year. First game of the season against Montrose, it was a 31-26 victory for your team. So your team had to hold down a really good offense for the Montrose Indians in that first game of the season. But take us back to that defense, because as good as your offense was, your defense really did a nice job on their side of the football.
My defensive coordinator, Neil Galuba, who's an attorney in town, kind of led that defense, and we ran a 3-3 blitzing style defense. We rotated 6 different defensive linemen in there and kept them fresh all the time, but we had a great crew of these speed linebackers, and we just blitzed and played a lot of man-to-man coverage, and we had the skilled guys to do that, but at the same time, once in a while we would, with that Berthoud game you mentioned, that was one of the greatest games I've ever seen. I just couldn't believe it myself just watching it. I mean, they would score, we would score, and the place was absolutely jam-packed. The whole town of Berthoud was there, and whatever towns are around there, and then half of Glenwood Springs came over there. And that game went back and forth, and finally, in the fourth quarter, I think it was still tied, and Zancanella, a great family name there in Carbondale, or in Glenwood, caused a fumble on a kickoff, and right towards the end of the game, Dakota made a great play on a bootleg and threw clear across the field to Trey Fox, and threw a touchdown pass, and to win that game. And it was amazing we got out of there with that. But it still, to this point, for us to score 50-some points in that game was pretty phenomenal. But, I go back, the defense continued to scrap and fight and cause turnovers. And that was the game.
Rocky Whitworth, the former head coach of Glenwood Springs Demons, coached their 2008 3A state championship team, with us today on the Jim Davis Show on the team. I want to take you back to kind of wrap things up here, Rocky, with the win against Fort Morgan at Cherokee Trail High School, the 3A state title game, 23-14. What's a lasting memory of that game for you and winning that state title on that day?
It was there's this one point towards the end of the game. We'd driven the ball down to score, and Dakota we ran a quarterback draw. We could not. They were a big, powerful team, and we just could not get it in the end zone. And so on a third down, we ran a quarterback draw, spread them out, and scored. But then they got the ball, and there was enough time if they were to score and do an onside kick and score again, they could beat us. So on a third down, we put out a nickel defense, and one of the players forgot to go out there. So I'm standing there looking, and I realize we only have 10 guys on the field on a crucial third down with a minute or two left to go against a very good quarterback from Fort Morgan. And I said, God, what do we, So I said, hey, we're missing a guy. And all of a sudden, somebody just takes off from our sideline. It was Dakota. He runs out there and lines up at corner, whoever, because that was the guy that was missing, the nickelback. And they ran a play, and Dakota came up, and I mean, just drill. They ran a play. It was a short pass into the flat, and Dakota drove into the guy, made a tremendous tackle, knocked the kid back, and held him from first down. So it was Dakota making a play, and as a defensive back. I mean, I don't know if he did many tackling drills all year, but he made a tremendous hit, and the game was over, and the Demons were state champs, undefeated.
That's a great story.
That's a great story.
All of a sudden, Dakota Stonehouse realizes, hey, we need somebody out there. That guy's going to be me, even though he hasn't even been playing that position. That's a fantastic story, Rocky.
Yeah. We mentioned that just a great story of him. He's doing well up in Montana. Got a family, a child, and just a wonderful story for Glenwood and all those kids and all those parents. That we had some great times. Craig Denny as the athletic director. It was just one of the great memorable times of Glenwood sports history.
Coach, before we turn you loose, I want to ask you about the Western Slope Conference at that time. From 2002 to 2014, 9 appearances by the conference out of those 13 state championship games. It was a battle last 5-6 weeks of the season for you guys just to get into the playoffs. How much of that going against the Palisades, the Rifles, the Steamboats prepared you for playoff runs those years?
It always. The league was so good. I mean, the quarterback from Steamboat, what was that kid's name? He went to Cal. He was a great player. Steamboat had just a tremendous football team. But they were still right in the middle of the pack all the time. I guess the next year they made a run. The Palisade was so good. Rifle was so good. All those teams. It really did prepare you because there was not a week you had off. It was a very good special time, and you just had to maintain that weekly stamina and stay healthy. And once we got into the playoffs, anything can happen, and we were able to make that run and make it and just get all the way to the end and take it all.
Hey, Rocky, I appreciate the time. Thank you so much. Hopefully we'll see you back on the sidelines in the near future. It'll be great to catch up with you again.
Well, thank you. I'll have to ask my grandkids now.
Yeah, exactly. We're kidding that you're probably over at the local park coaching people on how to play checkers. Maybe we're right now social distancing. That's probably not an opportunity. But you're out there coaching somebody to do something. I could just see you doing that. So hopefully you'll get back on the sidelines soon. Football here on this side of the hill is all the better when you're coaching wherever you are on the Western Slope. Hey, Rocky, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Stay healthy and safe, and hopefully we'll talk again soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Rocky Whitworth, Western Slope legend.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
All the different